What's going on, Freedom Fam? We're back again with another video. About to look at this video titled Advice for Strong Relationships from Jordan Peterson. Huge fan of Jordan Peterson. Haven't seen this video. Looks like he's on the, I forget this guy's name. Y'all don't know the person. Let me know the name in the comments. I forget the name. But it looks like this is like an edited video. So let's see his advice for strong relationships.
So what advice can you give to people who are looking to have a strong and meaningful and lasting relationship with someone?
Well, the first thing is to decide if that is really what you want.
Is that fair, do you think, to say, I want to be single forever? Do you think that's realistic or fair assessment of oneself?
I think that that's, for most people, a pathway to insanity.
Yeah.
You know, the psychoanalysts used to think that, and we all think this way in some ways, that you're sane because you're well put together. Your psyche is well structured, right? It's internal, somehow inside your head. But, and there's some truth in that, but here's a more accurate viewpoint, I think. You outsource most of your sanity because it's too complicated. And so what you do is your parents raise you to be vaguely acceptable to other people. And then you're surrounded by other people your whole life. And then every time you go off the rails a little bit, even just a little bit, people signal to you. Like you make a joke, it's not that funny, and people don't laugh. And you think, oh, well, you know, I should probably rethink my sense of humor a little bit or pay more attention. Or you tell a rambling story and you notice that everyone's like lost in the distance. And so if you're civilized enough so that people don't shun you and you have people around you, then they're going to be always telling you how to not be too insane. Well, if you're alone, you drift. You drift, you know, and you'll drift in the direction of your biggest weakness. And so, you know, there are some people, maybe they're introverted and disagreeable. They're not cut out for a lot of social contact. But we're social animals, man, right to the core. And it's a suboptimal solution for the vast majority of people. I think...
Real quick, right off the bat, I just want to talk to my guys real quick. You'll find guys who completely shut themselves off to the world. And I find that to be counterproductive. But they would say otherwise. You know, we are naturally social creatures, whether you like it or not. You know, you can be introverted. There's not a problem there. But what you're gonna do with that introversion is very important. That's what he's kind of bringing out. Even the most introverted person, you need some type of relationship. You have to have it. You know, you have to have people around you at some point. So it kind of, you know, what I'm kind of thinking of is, okay, well, if you have to have some type of relationship, you know, if we are social beings to our core, then it forces me to kind of think that you should also know how to socialize, even if it hurts you. As he said, it's the people around you that kind of buffer you from insanity. Being alone, you lose that buffer. And I think, you know, a lot of people talk about like RP rage, you know, certain terms I won't really speak of right now, but like, y'all know some of the terms. And it gives men a reason to just be on their own, to totally like leave things alone. Now, I'm not saying I'm not for some of the things in the RP community, but we're gonna parse through these things and we're gonna really like go detailed. You know, is it beneficial to you as a man? I'm talking specifically to my men, of course. Women, if you could get something from this, get something from this, because I know there's some women who don't like socializing either, and I think it's the same thing for them. Why I would say it kind of affects males a little bit more, in my opinion, is because, well, males, you know, in terms of what's wanted is, again, assuming that you actually want a relationship and assuming you'd like a strong relationship. If you want a relationship, I assume you want a strong relationship. As a male, we teach here that you should be focused on your purpose. You should be focused on you, what you're doing, what your role is in society, building up on that with skills. You have to be social to do that. Some of the greatest entrepreneurs are introverted, and they had to learn how to socialize. Why? Because they have to network. They have to have conversations. They have to know how to effectively speak. They have to make presentations. It's a given. Let's move on, because he's made a very good point. Kind of
that people are having a harder time
there.
finding, like, let's call them more permanent relationships, is because it's become increasingly easy.
I just want to say, anybody who doesn't know Jordan Peterson, I don't know how you can't. You could get into a deep rabbit hole with this guy. This guy is, he has a lot of solid work. Highly recommended. So make sure you check out Jordan Peterson if you haven't already.
Easy to have fleeting, casual, sexual relationships. I mean, Tinder is a revolution, right? It's a revolution in sexual behavior, and it's certainly not obvious that it's
Is it a social thing? Is it just technology? Is this what people want to be doing? Because you think the
it's
fleeting,
easier,
yeah,
in some ways.
but the technology has enabled this fleeting sexual activity.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And that's,
But-
we don't want to underestimate how radical a technology that is. That's
Right.
especially for men.
I do feel that deep down that all these people, men and women alike, are always longing for something more meaningful.
Well, I think that that's generally the case. I mean, part of the reason for a relationship is sexual contact, obviously. Well, that's that you don't necessarily need a relationship for that, but that's not the reason to be with someone. The reason to be with someone, when there's a lot of them. So one is, well, kids who have two parents do far better. Period. The data on that is crystal clear. It doesn't mean that there aren't many single parents who struggle to do a wonderful job. Right?
Yeah.
That's not the same thing. It's an average issue. So you need, plus, it's a lot of work to have kids. You kind of need to divide up the labor, especially in the first year or two, because the woman is completely overwhelmed in the first year, and she needs somebody around to take care of her while she's taking care of the kid, fundamentally, or at least that's the way it looks to me. So there's that. You need the stable basis for children, and it takes them a long time to mature, and they need to learn that relationships are trustworthy, right? So there's utility and stability there. But then also, you kind of want to tangle your life together with someone, because you have someone it's like two ropes that are tangled together. It's stronger, especially during times of weakness. And you have two brains instead of one, and that actually turns out to be really helpful when things are complicated. And it builds a solidity into your life and a reality into your life.
If you're running an e-commerce business, you have to check out Aribi. It's the analytics tool that's
To have someone who's along with you on this very long voyage. And so I think that deepens your life in a way that isn't really possible with fragmentary relationships as a single person.
Definitely.
Such an important point. And that's what's being lost in society. So now we're talking about in terms of romantic relationships, right? Why you should even want a strong relationship in the first place is, as he says so rightly, two heads are better than one if they are strong. Two weak people are better together than to be alone and weak. Now, I'm not saying you should get into a relationship with someone who's weak. I'm not saying that. But just the concept itself, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Even if it was one person who is strong, the other person weak, the other person who is strong can help the person that's weak. That used to be a thing. It's no longer a thing. It's you have to have it all. If you don't have it all, then what you even doing out here in these, you know what I'm saying? And you know, he brings up a great point because, you know, even with the household itself, you know, the data is there, as he says, that two parents work better than one. Why is that? Well, there's a strengthening of each other that trickles down to the children. There's a strengthening of the children because their foundation was strong, or stronger than it could be with if there was one in the home, one parent in the home. So, you know, what I'm getting so far about, you know, his advice for strong relationships is you should start by wanting to know if that's right for you, if it's time for you to be in a relationship. That takes socializing, and that's something that I'm going to add to it. It takes socializing. It takes socializing. Can't talk right now, but like, it takes getting out there. You know, you can't just be in your room 24/7 not doing anything at all and then expecting like things to just fall on your lap and you know if you're ready or not. You got to get out there and you got to try things. You got to socialize with people. Just, you should be doing that on a regular basis anyhow. But let's continue on. Let's see how he kind of wraps things up here.
And then there's more to it than that. It's like, I think of wrestling. There's this scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with an angel. He's wrestling with God, actually, which is quite an interesting. That's what Israel means, right? Wrestling with God. Mm. Yeah, that just blew me away when I learned it. It's so
is that true?
The true people of Israel are those who wrestle with God.
Huh. Wrestle
yeah,
with
it's
God.
not believe exactly. It's a whole different thing, man. It's a whole different thing.
Isn't it like fear from God? What it means? That's what I thought.
Well, it did from the work I did in the last couple of months looking at this, and I looked into it quite deeply. It does mean wrestling, essentially, and it does derive from that scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with God. That's when he gets the name Israel. And his hip is dislocated, right? Permanently. He has a permanent limp after that. It's no joke. But I think of marriage the same way. Like, people think, well, they lived happily ever after. It's like, that's not what you want in a marriage.
Yeah.
You want someone to contend with. You know, because you learn through that wrestling, you know,
Sure.
like you learn where you're an idiot and where you should stop being and vice versa. Yeah. So that's the spirit.
Yeah, I like how he kind of expounded on that. So maybe some of you don't know much about the Bible, and that's fine. But I'm familiar with the story of Jacob wrestling with God. And like, you know, in that story, what he's saying is, you know, what we could grasp from that is, you know, just like how, you know, Jacob wrestles with God, it's almost like symbolism of how we kind of wrestle with different things in life, including our mind, you know, including others, just people. And it's not physical wrestling, but it's like that mental, you know, even emotional. There is a constant wrestling to prove, hey, you know, there's right and wrong here. You know, you're not up to par in a certain area, and these are how people can help you. As he says, it helps you, you know that you're not an idiot or you are an idiot. That's how he kind of boldly puts it. But you know, like, it is an interesting concept that he's
spiritual aspect of marriage.
Here.
It's the fact that you have to contend with someone under all sorts of circumstances. Theoretically, is what would you say? It's a manner of promoting psychological, or you could say spiritual growth, and it's genuine. You know, that's why marriage is a sacrament in most human communities, right? It's stamped both by the state and by the sacred authorities, because it's not just a physiological union. That's what animals do. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the physiological union, but it has to be placed in the context of everything else a human being is. And I do think it's dreadful for people not to have that. And
do you think it's become harder for people to have meaningful, lasting relationships, or has it always been this hard? I feel like I thank God that I'm not dating now, because I feel like it seems like it's miserable out there right now.
Well, it's
to
hard.
Try to meet people.
It is hard although, you know, it's easier to meet people because there's more ways of meeting them.
Right.
But the ways of meeting them are more shallow. In my clinical practice, I would say that the rise of the internet dating option has actually overall been good for people who are looking for a partner. Now, there is some speculation and some evidence that it lowers the transaction price of separation and divorce. You know, because one of the reasons you don't separate or you don't get divorced is like, well, you're going to find someone else. And if it's easier to find someone else, then perhaps you're more tempted to sever the relationship. So maybe you lose in one place where you gain in the other. But
Yeah, so I'm going to stop there. And you guys could definitely watch the video on your own. I would encourage it. I'm sure he's going to go a lot deeper into it. And I think it's a full podcast, so you guys could check out that as well. Yeah, I like the points that he stated here. I think what we have to understand is that with relationships, they are meant for growth. And I think one thing that I've picked out that a lot of us watching this can take away, including myself, is that one thing he didn't mention anything about love. He didn't mention anything about love. Not that there shouldn't be any love involved. I don't think he's saying that. I'm not putting words in his mouth. But what he's saying is, when you think of the benefit starts with you. The first thing he said is, are you ready for it? Is that what you want? And then you have to assess, well, you know, why are you in it? What are you benefiting from it? How is the other person benefiting from it, right? I believe you should be able to know how the person who you're with is benefiting from it as well. I think that helps because you could help each other along the way. You know, these are very important things that have been lost in our culture because it's all about, you know, superficial things. It's all about how they look. It's not about how they help you progress in life. So that's something we gotta definitely think about. Guys, make sure you hit that comment section. Let me know what you think about this video. You could agree, disagree, fine with me. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe for more content, and we'll see you in the next video.